Well, folks, Vivek Ramaswamy now, after leaving the Department of Government Efficiency, has gone back to his home state of Ohio and has announced he will be running to replace current Governor Mike Dewine at the end of his current term in 2026. Instantly received endorsements from people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And although this was a Trump plus 12 state, it could be much, much closer in a midterm governor's race in Ohio. But before we dive into it, if you're new here, drop down below and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. Now, as we know, current Governor Mike Dewine is unable to run for re-election as he's term limited at the end of his term in 2026. And it's safe to say for me, Mike Dewine is not my favorite governor, I guess you could say. And many, many other Republicans have thrown their hat in the ring so far. And people like, including people like David Yost, who is the current Attorney General and former state auditor in Ohio. You have people like Warren Davidson, who represents Congressional District 8, Mike Carey, Congressional District 15, and then Jim Tressel, who is the current Lieutenant Governor of Ohio. Now, he did replace John Husted. Obviously, we know John Husted appointed to fill the vacancy in the Senate where J.D. Vance, when he became vice president, had to resign. And now you have Jim Tressel, who is the former, I believe, head coach at Ohio State University. Longtime head coach there, big in Republican circles in Ohio, now the lieutenant governor. Now, you could say in this race here, someone like David Yost would be the most or more established politician in this race. But we know Trump's endorsement, especially early on in a race like this, could propel Ramaswamy to win the GOP primary. You know, you look at what happened with J.D. Vance in 22 when he was going, crowded primary. J.D. Vance was running, Trump threw his hat behind him, and J.D. Vance ended up winning the primary a couple weeks later. Trump has a lot of carry in states like this, especially in the GOP primaries here. Now, on the Democrat side, there are a few names that have been thrown around, although only one at this point has officially jumped in the race. And so this is Amy Acton, who's the former director of the Ohio Department of Health. For reference, CNN described her. She was the lady who was advising Mike Dewine, during the COVID pandemic. And Amy Acton is what they call the Ohioan version of Dr. Anthony Fauci. So, to everybody out there, if you want to elect Dr. Fauci, I guess vote for Amy Acton. Like we said, she played a lead-in role in the response to the COVID pandemic in Ohio. She advised Governor Dewine to initially close schools and limit gathering to less than 100 people. Now, as we know, he was the first governor in the state to do this, although there were only 4 confirmed cases of COVID in the state at that time. And like we said, CNN called her the Buckeye State version of the straight-talking Dr. Anthony Fauci. They make it try and make it sound cool, but it's not. It's not cool. And now for the other 2 contenders that you have in this race, really I'm looking at Tim Ryan, former U.S. representative for 2 decades. He ran in 2022 for the open Senate seat that he ended up losing to J.D. Vance in that election by about 6 points. He served for over 20 years, like we said, in the House. And then you have people like Sherrod Brown, who was also a senator for a little under 20 years, about 18 years. He was a U.S. Senator, obviously just lost re-election to Bernie Moreno in the 2024 election here. And I believe that he only lost the re-election by 3.5 points in a state that Trump carried by 12. So you have an 8-point difference there. It's you've got a big chunk, a little under 10% of your population that voted for Trump, ended up turning around and did not vote for Bernie Moreno. They voted for Sherrod Brown or just did not vote. You're looking at this here, it's very clear that, this is going to be a likely or solid Republican seat. This is my thing. There are very few Democrats left that can win in Republican strongholds. And the same thing can be said for Republicans and Democrat strongholds. You look at people like Sherrod Brown, where this was a more competitive state in which he won in, but even when it was a Trump plus 12, he only lost by 3 points. You look at someone like John Tester in Montana, where you're voting by Trump by 20 points, and he only lost re-election by 5, 6? It's he's very much running ahead of where the Democrat presidential candidate runs in that race there. So it's like ultimately, I don't think Sherrod Brown's going to jump in this race. I think Tim Ryan will. And ultimately, my belief is that if Tim Ryan jumps in, I don't see Democrats winning this seat. If I'm being 100% frank with you, I just do not see the Democrats winning this seat at all. Now, as we've seen, there's been polling from, where did that go? Here we go. So there's been recent polling from public policy polling that showed that Amy Acton was leading Ramaswamy by a point with 11% undecided. And then, okay, so let's see, here we go. 10% undecided. So here you go. We have right here, if the candidates for governor next time were Democrat Amy Acton, Republican Vivek Ramaswamy, who would you vote for? Leading Vivek by a point right now. Obviously, 10% undecided. Then when a head-to-head matchup against Tim Ryan, you're looking at a 42-48. So Vivek is up on him by 6 points, which really surprises me. This Amy Acton must be popular or well-liked in the state of Ohio for being a Democrat like that. When you have Tim Ryan, probably a solid Democrat. I don't love him, but as a Democrat, there's a lot worse than him. Let's just be honest about that. And he's running 6 points behind Ramaswamy, and she's running a point ahead of him. Like, that's kind of wild. Like, if we're being 100% honest here. But the real question is can Vivek win? And let's weigh it out. On his side, he's got Trump and Musk endorsements. He's got a national profile from his 2024 run for the presidency. And serious cash. The guy is a biotech multimillionaire. He's probably a billionaire. I think he's a billionaire. But he has to have millions and millions and millions of dollars of cash that he can spend. And his platform is very, very bold too. It's not like this is going to be your rank and file Republican. He's got a very bold platform that he's running on. Cutting state income taxes, pushing merit-based teachers' pay, which I think is huge, slashing regulations. Really, your classic Department of Government Efficiency vibes that you're getting there. Plus, he's got Ohio GOP allies like Secretary of State Frank LaRose and Treasurer Robert Sprague, who are backing him very early on in this race. Like we said, we can go back up here to who he has so far. Trump, Musk, Marsha Blackburn, Mike Lee, Rick Scott, the statewide officials, a couple state senators, and then Jake Paul. As of right now, it doesn't look like we have any endorsements for the Democrats as of right now. Now, the challenge. Here's the challenge for Ramaswamy. He's never held public office before. And Ohio races usually go to more of the established Republican, established candidate. You want to look back. Before we had Mike Dewine, we had the absolutely wonderful, sarcastically, wonderful John Kasich, who is now a basically self-described Democrat. Went from a close race here to winning by huge margins, winning by 30 points in 2014. They kind of like that folksy grandpa type of candidate there. And is Vivek going to be too modern? Is he going to be too bold with what he's trying to do versus kind of what Ohio is typically voted for? We're going to see. We're going to see. Maybe they want change like this because his outsider status could fire up the base, but it also could leave him open to attacks. Because, at this point, it's been a lot of talks, not a lot of actually getting things done, which isn't his fault. It's just kind of the reality of his situation. And the thing is there are general election wildcards, midterm turnout. If Democrats are energized against a Trump-backed candidate and Ramaswamy stumbles on the local issues, it could get really tight. This is not a national election. We know midterm turnout is down, will be down. If Democrats really get energized in the state of Ohio against him, and he's just not connecting with voters the way he needs to, it could be really tight. A lot tighter. We could be talking 2, 3, 4 points here. And here's my take on it. Ramaswamy's got a real shot in the primary. Trump's the kingmaker status, and it's really hard to beat that out. But in the general, it is going to depend on who the Democrats pick, how Ohio's mood swing, and how well is Vivek able to have a grasp of the local issues and connect with voters on those local issues. But here's my thought. What do you guys think? Can Vivek pull this off, or is this going to be more of a seasoned politician like Yost or Brown who's going to steal the show here? Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. And drop down below, hit that subscribe button, make sure you never miss another video from us again, and smash that like button if you like the content we're putting out. We'll catch you next time.